Hello, I'm Georgie.
And I'm VG.
Welcome to our podcast, Diversity and Inclusion, Satisfying the Tick Box.
Today's actually our very first episode, and we'll be covering dyslexia.
So for those that aren't as familiar with what dyslexia actually entails, it's basically a learning difficulty which primarily affects reading and writing skills. However, it doesn't only affect these skills. So dyslexia is actually about information processing. So dyslexic people may have difficulty processing and remembering information which they see and hear.
And what we're going to be doing today is we'll be covering dyslexia from a personal perspective, but also how this affects an individual in their workplace.
Yeah, so I think this is a great place to just introduce me and my background. So I was diagnosed with severe dyslexia in my second year of uni, and the main issue that I face is around my working memory. So processing and retaining information is quite difficult for me. However, my reading and writing skills are perfectly fine.
So, Georgie, when did you find out that you were neurodiverse?
Yeah, so it was in my second or third year of uni. And it's actually quite a funny story. I never thought to myself, oh, I could be dyslexic. My mate on my course actually just went and got a test because she wanted to kind of see, and it was also free, so you can't complain with that. So I thought, I might just go and see if I am dyslexic, because I always felt like my memory was a bit off, and I didn't know if that was even related to dyslexia, but my results came back that I had severe dyslexia. So yeah, that was quite a shock.
And so we're talking, you said second year of university, did you?
Yeah.
So that's probably 19, 20 years old. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I think initially I was really shocked, and I think I just thought it would come back as no, I'm not dyslexic or anything like that. But yeah, when it came back that it was severe dyslexia, I was a bit overwhelmed, but also quite relieved, because I think everything just kind of clicked into place of things that I struggled with growing up with in school and things like that. So yeah, it was quite a relief.
And you mentioned struggling growing up in school. What were the kind of challenges that you'd experienced?
I think my school used to really, really stress me out, and I never really understood why, because all my other friends were absolutely fine. They liked school, but it was more exams, I think, because my working memory is quite poor. So it was just remembering all the information for the exams and things like that. Those were my main struggles. It wasn't necessarily the spelling and reading aspect, although reading I'm not the best at it, but it was mainly exam season.
And in school we all have our favorite teacher. Big up Miss Giles if you're listening to this. That's another topic, but did you ever approach your teachers and talk about this, or did one teacher ever stand up for you or try to help you?
No, this was the issue, I think, that's still quite common now as well. I think teachers and schools don't really have systematic things in place to identify whether people may be dyslexic or have ADHD or autism or anything like that. I think that's a really key issue. So it never even crossed my mind that I could be dyslexic. So yeah.
And so who did you feel comfortable to talk about this when you were growing up, or did you keep it to yourself?
Yeah, it was more because I didn't really know much about it. I just thought it was me being a bit stupid, a bit not as bright as other people in my class. But then once I found out I read a bit more into it, and I was like, everything made sense. And I think if I'd had a bit more support at school, it would have made a huge difference for me.
Firstly, thank you, Higgsy, for sharing your personal experience, your personal journey with me, but also the audience who are going to listen to this. I do think that it takes a brave person to be able to open up and talk about their own personal journey. Just in relation to some of the comments you made about feeling stupid and not being as bright as others, I didn't even think you know how truly capable you are as a person, and that's quite exciting going forward, finding out. So what I wanted to talk about next is let's focus the attention on your family.
How did this impact your family? I know you've got a sister. How did this impact her?
Yeah, I think so when I told my parents the result, my dad actually he said he had a little tear in his eye because I think he felt quite guilty about not recognizing it or picking it up, because he obviously wanted me to be as supported as I could be at school. But this is the key reason, the key issue, isn't it? It's awareness about um neurodiversity within children, I think. Yeah. And I always having a twin, like you mentioned, obviously you compare yourself, don't you, when you're a twin. It's just a natural thing to happen. But she's always been so bright and like really academic. So I think comparing myself to her, when actually we don't think in the same way, we don't process information in the same way, it was just very, yeah, it was pretty tough.
I can empathize with you, Higgsy. Big up Mills, by the way. You're a great sister. Just putting it out there. In terms of that awareness, creating awareness, where do you think that should come from? Who should be directing that or leading that for parents or students or at schools?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good question. I think my opinion, I think it should be a something that the schools should have in place, like a kind of a system where I don't know if a child's underachieving a little bit or not really learning at the same pace as their peers. I think there should be something in place that, I don't know, they could offer them a free test, or because at my uni we got free, the tests were all free, but I think normally they're quite expensive. So I think just having that and that funding from the government would be really, really, really important and really useful to help kids develop better and get the resources.
I would make a comment. Let's refer back to Boris Johnson, but unfortunately, he's gone. But
Yeah.
what university did you go to, just to give them a shout out? Because if the test is expensive and they're providing it to students and trying to support the students better, I think they need to get recognition.
Oh yeah, it was UE in Bristol. So big up them. Really, really good. I don't know if it's something that all unis do. I'm not that aware of it, but yeah, it was really, really good. And the support that I got afterwards, I like my extra time, they sorted all of that out for me. Um, and yeah, just checked in to see if I needed. Oh, I also got equipment from them actually. So for lectures, I could have this plug-in microphone that would record the lectures, because lecturers just weren't, I don't know, they weren't allowed to record the lectures. So yeah, that was really good. So I could listen back to that rather than just reading the PowerPoint, I guess.
I think that university has made you who you are now.
Yeah,
If you're looking at it holistically, that's where you've become the Higgsy that I know, anyways.
yeah.
But okay, let's move on then. Obviously, you finished uni, and you said that you went to another uni, didn't you, to do your masters?
Yeah, University of Sussex. So yeah, I think once I had my diagnosis, I think that kind of gave me a bit of confidence as well, that it wasn't just like I can actually participate in the education system. So I went on to do my masters at the University of Sussex, and they were equally as amazing with providing the help that I needed. So, for example, there wasn't any exams, which was definitely one of the reasons I picked it. So with my essays that I had to submit, they gave me a sticker that I could put at the top. So whoever was marking it, they could see that I was dyslexic, and just to kind of bear that in mind, it kind of gave me I felt a bit at ease with that being there.
And what is one piece of advice you give to a student who's going through that same journey? I know this is quite a difficult question to answer, but what is it that if you had to give them advice in relation to studying at university or another establishment, what would you tell them if they're going through a similar journey to you?
Yeah, no, I think just I think being transparent about it. I think letting people know that what you struggle with and finding ways that works for you, because I know for me I'm more of a practical learner. Like I couldn't just read a document and retain the information. I think I have to, I don't know, speak out loud or do something a bit more practical that will make it stick in my head. So yeah, I think just reaching out for extra resources and extra help and just finding the ways that you learn best. I think just trying loads of different techniques really.
And obviously, we're still coming out of a pandemic. How did you manage your neurodiversity during the pandemic? What were you doing?
Yeah, so I actually did my master's during the pandemic, so it was a year long, and we didn't have the kind of in-person interaction with the lectures. They were all online, so I think that for me was quite a struggle. But yeah, I think it was the same for everyone really. But I think just not being able to have sessions in person with my uni, like my course mates, kind of, because I like to talk about the topic that I need to remember for the exam or what I'm writing about. So I think that in-person aspect was a bit of a struggle, but I guess you've just got to make it work, haven't you?
Yeah, I think that's fair advice, to be honest. So you finished uni. What happened after then? What did you do?
So I got a distinction, just so I'll let everyone know.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was good. And then I got a job just a couple of weeks before finishing. So luckily I'd finished my dissertation. But yeah, now I'm in full-time work and it's going well.
So you're in full-time work, and what is it that organizations have to do to promote, an inclusive space for those who are neurodiverse?
Yeah, no, I think it's such an important question, isn't it? I think it's going around quite a lot at the minute. I think it's around just everyone wants to feel that they're kind of understood no matter what space they're in, and I think that is really key to create that inclusive space, is just to understand the differences that people have, and just celebrate them as well. I think it's not just understanding the issues, but actually embracing it and seeing what good can come from those differences and the different ways of thinking. So yeah, what about you? What do you think, Vidji? Do you think there's kind of one way that organisations can do this, or do you think there's a few different ways?
I think it could never be one way because everyone's so different. So if you have it as one way, it's very rigid. You need to be able to tailor, to the needs of your neurodiverse workforce. And to be able to create that, what you need to think is, having a neurodiverse workforce, you've got different ways of thinking, different perspectives. And what's that going to do for your organization? That's going to drive innovation. And so how can you best assist them? So you need to be able to, firstly, create awareness amongst your organization, but also build advocacy and just understanding, a neurodiverse person's viewpoint so that you can help them is probably much more powerful. But it's also about ensuring that you don't become rigid as an organization.
Yeah.
You need to be able to be flexible and continuously learn and improve what you're doing internally.
Yeah, I think the whole point about understanding the differences, because I don't know, for me, I think there's a perception with dyslexia that it's just your spelling and reading that you struggle with, but actually mine is the complete opposite. So obviously it's my working memory and retaining the information. So I think organisations need to take that into account, that it's not just dyslexia as one thing. Everyone experiences it in different ways. So yeah, 100% agree with you.
I agree with you, Higgsy. So I know we've spoken about how organizations can create an inclusive culture for those who are neurodiverse, but I think it's quite important to take it back to the start, the recruitment process. So how do you think that the recruitment process can be more accommodating for those who are neurodiverse?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think it really needs to start from the job advert, because obviously that is the beginning of the process. And because I've noticed that job adverts can be really lengthy and quite difficult to read. So using clear and concise language can really make all the difference. I don't know, using, for example, bullet points. Yeah, I personally struggle to read really long documents online, so that would definitely help me.
Okay. And what has been your personal experience then during the recruitment process or during a recruitment process?
Yeah, I think my main thing with, for example, interviews and presentations and planning for that, I really need the materials beforehand. Um, if there's any reading resources, because it takes me a lot longer to process and digest the information, especially with things like presentations. So I think, yeah, if candidates are selected for the interview, they really should be provided with details in a clear format, just kind of outlining the recruitment process, for example, what to expect on the day, directions to the office, things like that. I think this kind of pre-planning employers can really implement to make neurodiverse candidates perform at their best.
I think that's a fair point. And as a candidate, then in the interview process, how do you think and what do you think recruiters should do or be mindful of?
Yeah, I think it's worth remembering that every individual is different, and there's not one size fits all approach with interviewing. So those who are neurodiverse, it's really important to understand those needs and that the process is flexible. So yeah, I think that's really important.
And Higgsy, you mentioned reading previously. Have you heard of bionic reading? Because I came across this a couple of months back.
Yes, yes, it's I've only heard of it recently, to be fair, in the last month, but it's essentially if people aren't familiar with it, it's the first few letters online on the document are bolded, so it makes it easier to go through the text online and stay focused. And you can also add this as a Chrome extension. It's really helped me um, read online, obviously, because we're in 2022 now. Everything's online, so yeah, it's great.
And so for people and listeners, it's bionic reading. It's quite a useful tool if you haven't heard of it before. So let's conclude then. I've only got one final question for you. If you can give one key takeaway from this episode, what would it be?
Yeah, I think the key takeaway would be that neurodiversity and dyslexia in particular really impacts everyone differently. So I think it's really important to be aware of this and tailor your approach as an organisation just to create that inclusive culture. It's really key.
100% agree with you there. And that's all for today's episode. So where we discuss dyslexia on a personal, but also in the workplace level.
Thank you so much for listening to our very first episode. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast and also give it a rating and review if you enjoyed it. And in our next episode, we'll be dropping shortly, so stay tuned.
Thank you again, and we'll see you next time on Diversity and Inclusion, Satisfying the Tick Box.